Hi, my name is Brian. I'm an author on IntelligentRight.com. I'm going to discuss how government interference in trade negatively affects the economy. I'm going to do it using a couple of nice little tools, MS Paint and a supply and demand curve. For those of you who may not be familiar with the supply and demand curve, this axis here represents price, and this axis here represents quantity. Okay? And this curve here, this line, represents supply, and this line here represents demand. Okay, so this line is the quantity and price at which a supplier can supply a good, and this line here is the quantity and price at which a consumer is able and willing to consume a good. And this price here in the middle is the equilibrium price. This is the price the market decides on and is the optimum point for efficiency in any market. Now, this particular supply curve represents the world supply without any trade restrictions. This second line represents, and I apologize, it's not going to be that straight, the supply curve under a trade restriction. Okay, we're going to call this good apples. And the government, in the name of, let's say, protecting U.S. jobs, decides that even though this, the world supply curve, is much cheaper than this, we're going to call it the U.S. supply curve. Even though this is much lower than this, the government says, well, you know what, we want to save jobs. So we're going to say we're not going to buy any foreign apples, we're only going to buy a certain amount, which is a trade quota, or we're going to tax incoming apples, which is going to up their price. So for whatever reason, a trade restriction has been imposed, and the price has gone up, the price of apples. That might seem fine. I mean, who can't get behind saving American jobs? But when we take a closer look at it, it actually hurts the economy, and this is why. If you draw a straight line from here, well, this is one of the reasons why. If you just draw a straight line from here to here, and a straight line from here to here, okay, below this line is the producer surplus, above this line is the consumer surplus, okay, and this area right here in the middle is called the deadweight loss. It's also called excess burden or allocative inefficiency. And I think that the last name is actually one of the most accurate because this is inefficiency. It represents exactly that. And we'll just draw a line here. This is the deadweight loss, the allocative inefficiency. The reason for this is while it might look fine, I mean, the government restricted the purchase of foreign apples or put a tariff on them, it actually isn't. And that is because while the apple industry in the U.S. might be saving jobs, might be making more money, other industries aren't. People have less money in their pockets because they're paying more for apples, they're paying more for apple byproducts, which in the case of apples is not that big of a deal necessarily, but if we went to an industry like the corn industry, it becomes a very big deal. In the case of the corn industry, the government stipulates that a certain amount of corn through the use of ethanol is going to be used in gasoline, which artificially bumps up the demand for corn, and it subsidizes the growing of corn, which lowers the supply. The idea in that is that it's going to promote alternative fuels, but the reality, as we've seen now, is that corn is not an efficient alternative fuel. It actually takes just as much, if not more, to grow the corn because it takes gasoline-powered, diesel engines to harvest it, as well as it takes a lot of energy to plant it. Also, corn is very taxing on soil. It's actually very bad for you in the byproducts that are used in food. So the decision to subsidize corn was not a good decision on the government's part. But that's not something that they knew back then. But it just goes to show you that government interference in the market is not a good thing. The market would not have made that decision. The market would have made a much smarter decision, which probably would have led to a cleaner, healthier alternative, because that's what the market does. The market stimulates innovation. The market really decides what's best for the economy. And I hope that you have found this instructional. I hope that it makes sense to you. If you have any questions, feel free to post them in the comments section. Thanks.